Yesterday, I did some readings for the collective. We did some sun sign readings, and I noticed there was a pattern for each one of the signs that I basically did a reading for. I noticed that there was some pattern or some message that was basically the same or similar in the sense of what is in need to be acknowledged or what to take action on. So today I'm going to be sharing a little bit about that aspect as we enter on today, which is Wednesday, day of Mercury, day of learning, day of communication, day of technology. Today is a perfect day for us to kind of have a conversation about this mid term or this middle of the journey of Mercury retrograde and kind of make sense on this collective energy that is present and see really what's going on here. So, if you want to find out a little bit more about these patterns that are happening at the collective, and you want to find out a little bit more about Mercury retrograde and Mercury in general as a planet, then you want to stick around. Cura, 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 corazón. Cura, cura, cura. Namaste, beautiful soul. Welcome to the Blooming Lotus Healing Channel. My name is Jikara, and I'm a spiritual healing facilitator. And I am so excited, so grateful to be here present with you. And as we open the sacred container, just bringing in that energy or calling in the energy of Archangel Michael to shield and protect the space, and Archangel Raphael to help us receive the messages and the information from a place of healing, and Archangel Metatron to support us in connecting with our inner wisdom. Today, I'm going to be sharing a little bit of information about the planetary experience of Mercury retrograde and the actual patterns that are happening at this time at the collective level, and the things that we want to think about regardless of what sun sign we are. There is a pattern that is really affecting us overall, and why not pay attention to these patterns. But before we get started, I want to share a little bit of information from our sponsors. Hi, I just wanted to take this moment to invite you to come over to my website, www.thebloominglotushealing.com. That's www.thebloominglotushealing.com, and sign up for my email list so that you can stay in touch and find out about activities that I don't announce here on YouTube. And you can also get to know all of the classes that I offer, as well as the one-on-one offerings that I have available there for you. Speaking of my email list, I wanted to invite you to sign up. We are basically at the end of the promo or the raffle that I am offering here, which I'm offering a one-on-one session, a free one-on-one session clearing for Venus in retrograde. So if you are experiencing difficulties with all these retrogrades, all of these energies that are just floating around, and you want to get a free session with me and experience what an Akashic record clearing is with spiritual response therapy, then you definitely want to sign up for my email list by going to the website www.thebloominglotushealing.com, watching this video, and then at the end, make sure that you put on the comments Venus in retrograde clearing, Venus in retrograde clearing, and that will get you in to the raffle. And I will be announcing the winners on March 28th. So we're almost done. So make sure that you get your email in so that you can get that free session with me. If you're listening to that on the podcast, you got to listen to a little bit of a piece of the music, the original music that we're posting on the Akashic Records channel, which is the sister channel that we are creating here to share Akashic Record clearings for the collective, as well as meditations, guided meditations, and meditation music. So feel free to go over there and check it out. If you are going to sign up for or subscribe to the channel, just know that in order for you to search it, you want to make sure that you put the @ sign so that you can find it. You got to put the handle at the Akashic Records channel so you can find it. And so make sure that you subscribe, you like, that you comment and interact with that channel. As we are growing it, we are adding a lot of different clearings and videos. So please do consider supporting it in that way. If you want to become a patron of the channel, make sure that you click on the link, whether it is above on Facebook or below on YouTube. Make sure that you click on that link where it's inviting you to our membership, where you get early access to the videos, as well as ad free. So I want to invite you to subscribe to this channel if you haven't done so. And if you have, thank you so much for being part of this channel. Make sure that you hit that notification button so that you know when I go live next or when I post a video next, and share and like this video if you feel like the content that I'm posting here is helpful for you. Okay, so let's get started with this incredible, I want to say, this like interesting pattern that I noticed yesterday when I was doing the reading. So yesterday I basically did readings for the entire 12 sun signs, right? And I was basically pulling from my Spirit of Psilocybin deck, right? And I noticed there was like a pattern that was showing up, and I was like, I really need to talk about this because obviously there's something here that is happening at the collective level that we need to be talking about. So a couple of things that I noticed when it came down to patterns was the fact that the divine masculine energy was showing up. And what does that mean in your own life, that you get to really learn a little bit more about that. And I'm going to be sharing a little bit more about the planetary energies as well, because I don't know if you know this, but each planet actually has an assigned let's say gender, right? Like there's masculine planets, there's feminine planets, and then there's planets that are sort of like in the middle. They're transgender, let's say. And the interesting thing about Mercury is that Mercury doesn't go feminine or masculine. It kind of is in a neutral planet. But I am noticing that there's sort of like this inclination towards the masculine energy that Mercury in retrograde, specifically during this time, is inviting us to think about and to kind of address in our lives. Now, the card that came up the most yesterday was the card of the Cosmic Father. The Cosmic Father came up like, I want to say at least 4 to 5 times. And I was like, okay, there's something here. By the time I got to Sagittarius, I was like, okay, we got to talk about this. And if you watched the video yesterday, you know that I was like, okay, I'm going to talk about this. And I was like, Spirit, okay, what's the message here? And so the message here, when I started looking into it and started looking into the planetary energies and what does Mercury mean, right? Like, what is the energy of Mercury, right? The energy of Mercury is about communication, is about learning. And then also, what are we learning in regards to the masculine presence in our life, who in regards to those people who are in our lives that are representing the masculine energy. But then it kind of goes even beyond that, because it's sort of focusing on, for what I'm seeing here, it's focusing more on the relationship with father, right? So what is your own relationship with your own father and in your own family tree, and how did that show up in your own life, and how is that expressing in your own life, and what is it about that relationship that could potentially be enhanced by proper communication? The second card that came up was the card of the air medicine card, which is also a masculine energies, a mind, and both Mercury. So Mercury is an air, basically connected to air sign. Well, not all air signs, but it is connected to an air sign, which would be Gemini. And so what I thought about that, I was like, okay, there's something here in regards to Mercury that, of course, we talk about communication, and everyone talks about Mercury in retrograde, and we talk about like how communication can break down. But beyond that, the way that the masculine communicates. So for example, whether you are a woman or a man, you could potentially be embodying more of the masculine or the feminine energy. So how do you know if you're embodying more of the masculine or the feminine energy? Well, so the feminine energy tends to be more flowy, more intuitive. There's sort of like this essence of receptivity, and that is how the feminine kind of is expressing. The masculine is more action, more outward, more I don't want to say aggressive, but I'm trying to think of a better word than aggressive, but it's more action, right? It has sort of like a very structured way of doing things. It has to have sort of like this outward expression, right? And hence the reason why the word aggressive kind of comes up, but it doesn't necessarily have to be aggressive. Um, let's say assertive, like more of an assertive type of energy, right? And so when we look at that and the relationship between the the air, right, and the masculine of the air energy alongside with the cosmic father, and what does that represent, right? Alongside with the additional supporting card that came up as well yesterday, which was from tarot, which was the Ten of Pentacles, which is all about the roots, about ancestral. And looking at all of these pieces, it leads me to believe that we are meant to be really working towards thinking about our relationship with our own fathers, our relationship with what a father figure represents, and also seeing the patterns of how father shows up in our family tree. Okay, that's a couple of things that I see here. The other thing that I see here as well is, how are we communicating? Are we communicating from a place of a masculine energy, or are we communicating from a place of feminine energy? And I feel like this is something that's important because a couple of weeks ago, I did have this download right here on the channel while I was talking, which was, the world needs more receptivity and less rejection, more receptivity and less rejection. And what that tells me is that we may want to pay attention to how we are communicating with each other. Are we trying to just insert ourselves into others, or are we willing to really balance the conversation and be in that listening mode, in that receptive mode, right? And I feel like this is a conversation that the universe wants to have with us. There's nothing wrong with us to with being assertive and connecting with the masculine, but how are we connecting to the masculine energy from a healthy way? Are we balancing the energy between between the healthy masculine and the healthy feminine, right? Or where can we refine a little bit more our healing journey from a place of understanding and a place of self-awareness, and seeing ourselves from that perspective? Are we taking the time to listen to those who are around us, or are we just listening so that we can just respond to that person? Are we just listening so that we can just, kind of just give our opinion? And I know, for me, for example, I know that sometimes that happens to me when I'm in when I'm in conversation with others. I'm not necessarily there's times that I'm not necessarily truly listening. And so I think that this is where we want to really look at our relationship with the masculine energy, and the fact that when we look at Mercury, and Mercury being a beautiful invitation to connect to both the masculine and the feminine energy, how can we bring this, refine this more in the way that we communicate with each other? How can we learn how to exist in both sides of the spectrum, right? And learn how, when we're needed in the feminine role, and learn when we're needed in the masculine role, right? And so I think it's important to kind of bring that into our awareness. The other card that came up as well was okay, so regarding the sacred masculine as well, it has to do with boundaries. And I noticed that there were a lot of signs yesterday where boundaries was sort of like a conversation as well. And I was like, okay, there's something here in regards to how we create boundaries for ourselves and for those who are around us. How are we putting up walls, right? Maybe we think that boundaries mean that we have to put up walls and disconnect and separate ourselves from others, right? And when we go into the hyper masculine role, we could potentially be creating a wall instead of a conversation about where we exist in the map of our boundaries, right? When we are having a conversation about boundaries, it has nothing to do with separating yourself from the other person, and it has much to do with existing, knowing where we exist, and teaching others where is it that we exist, and teaching others how to love us and how to show up for us, right? And the same thing when someone is sharing a boundary with you, they're basically letting you know what their needs and where they exist, and where how you can play with each other's energies in a way that everyone is going to be happy and feel fulfilled. And so how are we connecting with that energy of our boundaries? Are we overzealous around our boundaries, and can we start rebalancing that energy, right? Because again, the masculine energy showed up so much yesterday. What that tells me is that we are being called to really balance that, like where it's so present right now that we're really, we could use more of that feminine energy, right? More of that compassionate and receptivity in the world. And so as a collective, right, this is a call to the collective, and this is for you to receive and to kind of just think about in your own way, right? Like how can you apply this in your own life, right? I'm just kind of giving you a very broad perspective here, and then you can take that and apply it into your own life in the way that aligns with you in your own experience, right? The other aspect that I want to invite you to think about is the fact that we are being called to really go back into connecting with our spirit team, our spirit guides, our spirit animals. There may be a lot of you who are having these vision quests. And what that means is that you're potentially receiving messages from animals and you're not even realizing. Or maybe you're thinking about a specific animal, or maybe you're going outside, you're walking your dog, or you're just, walking on the park, and you're seeing this specific animal over and over again. That means that there is a calling from the spirit world that is inviting you to connect with nature in a way that feels right for you, right? However you want to connect with that spirit animal, it could be by just investigating about it, it could be learning, maybe even buying a picture and having it on your altar, whatever that looks like for you. But that calling is there for a reason. Maybe it could be just sitting in meditation and bringing in that image that maybe it's coming up for you. Maybe you're even driving and you're basically seeing the image of this animal, or you're thinking about this animal. There's a reason why this animal is coming forth for you, and there's significance. You can go on Google and find out the significance of that specific animal and what does it represent, and you'll be surprised about how this is actually something that you need, is a medicine that you need. And spirit animals are bringing medicine to us. Now, a lot of times when people feel, maybe you think about an animal and you don't really like that animal too much, and you're like, oh, I don't know, I feel resistance towards this animal. Like a lot of people feel resistance towards like spiders or maybe bugs or other animals, right, in general. And so I want to invite you to really lean into that, because there is medicine in that is wanting to come into your life. So pay attention to this. Now, if you are not receiving messages or visions of spirit animals, or maybe seeing an animal over and over again, you could potentially be called. When I see the spirit animal card in my oracle deck, I think about also spirit team. So if you don't resonate with the whole idea of the spirit animal right now, well, what about your spirit team? Maybe you've been thinking a lot about angels, or maybe you've been seeing angel numbers, right? And there's a specific number that is calling you. Even searching it, what it means in numerology, there could be medicine there that is available for you to work on during this time. And so, paying attention to these little subtle signs is a calling during this time of Mercury retrograde, specifically this time where we're having all these retrogrades, and we're in the middle of the lunar, sandwiched between the lunar and the solar eclipse, which is, and then we have the solar eclipse coming up on Saturday. So we have, and then the new moon, right, like, which is on the same day. And so thinking about these things is important, because what is happening right now is that we are shifting and changing at the DNA level. We have the 10 of Pentacles that came up. right side up, right? And that, when I asked Spirit this morning, like, show me a card, and when I the message that I got was, this is ancestral. Your ancestors are here speaking to you through these patterns. They're speaking through you, through the spirit animals. They're speaking through your spirit guides. They're speaking through all of these experiences, or these callings, to rebalance the energies, because they want to bring that balance in your family tree, right? And so think about it from the perspective of how men have shown up in your own family tree, whether it is father, or whether it is uncles, or whether it is cousins. How are men showing up? How are they communicating? What is the typical way that men show up in your family tree? What is the typical way that the masculine, the divine masculine, is expressing in your family tree? Could that potentially be something that needs some balance right now? And maybe even that expression and that interaction with that specific energy, how is that impacting you in the way that you see the masculine, in the way that you relate to the masculine energy, right? And so we want to pay attention to this, because these are the ways that we are programmed. This is how we get these subtle programs, and how we operate and continue the patterns that are subconscious, and just continue to create the same, or weave the same pattern over and over again. If we want to break these patterns at this time, this is how we do that, right? Is by looking at the conversation that our life has with us, right? Let me know in the comments, how is this resonating for you? Is this something that you feel makes sense for you? Do you feel like this is resonating in some way? Maybe it's not resonating with you. Let me know in the comments. This is not about, you can have a conversation with me, and this is basically me starting a conversation, right? But I kind of wanted to share a little bit about Mercury as a as an actual like a transgender planet, and I wanted to share a little bit about how uh basically I found out that there was the genders on the planet. So I went over. I just always have like these moments where I just think about, okay, what is there a gender on the planet? And I just start looking and searching online, and I find different articles. And so I don't know if you're familiar with Time Nomad and their, I think it's sort of like they have a blog, but they also have other like astrology stuff that they offer. But they had this really awesome blog that was talking about the masculine, the feminine, and the transgender. But one of the things that I thought it was really interesting is that with Mercury being androgynous, it can go either or. So the beautiful thing about this conversation that Mercury is having with us right now is that it's kind of um letting us know, inviting that balance, right? Is inviting that balance of the masculine energy for our experience, right? And so while I was reading this, I kind of went down the rabbit hole, and then I found this really cool article that was regarding the myths and the truth behind Mercury retrograde, which I found very interesting. And one of the things that he mentions here is the fact that Mercury, like all planets go in retrograde, but the one planet that really affects us is Mercury. And that's the reason why we talk about it so much, is because it affects the way that we communicate. It affects the way that we interact. That's how we are, basically, interacting with each other, is through communication. So, of course, it's something that impacts us in such a profound way. That's the reason why we talk about it so much, right? So it's sort of like the most relatable aspect of the retrogrades, right? That we can talk about so easily. So one thing that he mentions, which I found it very, very interesting, is that he mentions the actual symbol of Mercury. It represents the I'm trying to say, I hope I'm not saying this improperly or pronouncing it improperly, but it's the caduceus, right? It's the symbol of these occult forces of Mercury. And um I'm going to share it here. Okay. So we have, if you can't see, if you're listening to this on the on the actual podcast. I will share a link on the description, so that you can look at the picture. But we have the god Hermes, right, who has this staff looking thing, which has the caduceus, and it has the two. It's this like this staff that has these two snakes that are going up. Is the same symbol that is used for medicine, right? But the interesting thing about this, what I found really interesting here, is that this specific god represents or is the protector of the travelers, which that's the reason why Mercury is sort of like a really great time to travel, as well as is the protector of merchants and thieves, which I thought that was kind of interesting. So that's the reason why the representation of Mercury goes into, when people talk about Wednesdays or even Mercury in general, they also talk about marketing or business expansion, or sort of like this the communication, or when you want to communicate for your business, or when you want to communicate in general. Usually Wednesdays are the best time, and also the best time to learn, because of the energy of this specific god that is ruling on Wednesdays, right? What I kind of wanted to mention here in regards to this specific planet, is that when we are looking at the symbol, right? We're looking at a symbol that represents power. It represents mediation. It represents diplomacy, and I'm talking about the staff, right? This specific staff has like a lot of symbolism in it, and also represents transformation between two genders, which again, what the conversation that I'm bringing here into this is the fact that we get to transform the masculine energy, right? Or the masculine gender or expression, with the help of the feminine, by bringing that balance, by influencing it with the feminine energy. This is also representing the rhythm of time, so the oscillating rhythm of time, or the changing circumstances. This also is, of course, if you look at it, it kind of looks like the double helix of the DNA. So it has that sort of like that resemblance of what we have at the ancestral level, right? So to me, when I look at this, I'm thinking, wow, this is interesting, because we have the Ten of Pentacles, and I keep repeating that card, but it's and just looking at the symbolism behind it, and seeing the card came up just as we were talking, as I was asking spirit about, like, what is the significance of this, then it leads me to believe that we are being invited to do some ancestral work. So a lot of the things that may be showing up for you right now are related to father, are related to the masculine in your family tree, in your ancestors, in the way that they showed up in even if you didn't get to interact with your a father figure while you were growing up. Like, for example, for me, I didn't have that. But when I look at my life, and I look at the expression of what I've kind of searched for, what's expressed in my own experience, and compare it to the stories that I have been told about my father, I can see the resemblance of some of these things, right? And so that's the invitation that I want to give you in this regard, is to look at how the pattern is presenting itself right now, especially right now, especially in the way of communication, and how communication again breaks down between the masculine and the feminine, right? Even when we're looking at a couple, you have whether it is same sex, but then you could potentially have someone who's representing more the feminine, and someone who's representing more the masculine energy. That polarity exists. It's always going to be there in some shape or form, whether it is energetically or physically, right? Um, so the other thing that Mercury has represents, or at least is shown here on this article, is that it has the power to move the world of the visible to the world of invisible. And when I think about that, I think about the internet, I think about technology, I think about all the things that we interact with that are in today's world, especially, that are invisible, that are definitely visible or palpable in our lives now. For example, if you let's say you're working from home and you are using Wi-Fi. If the Wi-Fi breaks down, then basically the reality, the actual reality of the invisible, right, becomes pretty visible for you. It becomes very tangible for you, because then you're no longer able to work or to produce, right? Because then you don't have access to that invisible internet, right? And so I find it very interesting in regards to that, and how this is sort of connected and really powerful um, to become aware of. Now, with the other aspect that they mention here is that Mercury controls transitions. So when you turn the actual staff on the side, so let's imagine that you turn the staff on the side, it offers clues in regards to the nature of mercurial energies. And when you think about the word mercurial, right, it doesn't feel, it feels like it oscillates. It goes kind of go back, it goes back and forth. There's sort of like this I think about the ocean, right? Like, just so things are not necessarily still. There's going to be a lot of energy movement, right? There's going to be this up and down, right? And so the when you look at the staff and you look at how the the actual lines go, right, with the visual of the snakes, you can see how it goes up and down, right? So these two oscillating waves, right, they point into the visible and the invisible, how it goes back and forth into visible and invisible, right? Thinking, and again, it brings me back to technology. So another thing that I wanted to mention as well here that he mentions is that with Mercury, right, there is a lot of internalization. You kind of, sometimes there could be some internalized experience when it comes down to your communication, right, and how you go into the mind a lot. You kind of, and again, it goes back to that card of the sacred medicine of air, right? You may be stuck in the mind a lot more than usual because of the nature of this specific planet, which tends to be more mental, more heavy on that, on the aspect of the mind. So paying attention to that. Maybe you're going inward, maybe you're going into hermit mode in your mind, maybe you don't want to be so outward at this time, and because the energy of Mercury is inviting you, or it's kind of taking you to that place, right? And so how can you balance that during this time, right? um so those are the things I kind of wanted to mention here from that specific this specific and I'm going to put the link on the description, so that you can actually get to read the entire article. The article was really good, and I think that you will love that. But for the purpose of this video, I just kind of wanted to share specifically these points that he mentioned, because I saw the commonalities between the cards that came up yesterday, the card that I pulled to get clarification from spirit, and I saw, wow, like they're going back to, so I'm being guided to tell you, going back to what the oscillation that I was mentioning, right? Going from the unseen to the seen. Think about that also in the aspect of the ancestors too, right? Because your ancestors are not necessarily seen, right, but they're seen through you. So the unseen is seen through your own expression of your of being alive and being present, right? And so think about that too, how this is an invitation again to go back and see these patterns of communication in your own family tree. So again, if there's anything that you can take away from this video, because I know that I mentioned so much and I kind of went over, I was kind of in the stream of consciousness, but if there's anything that you can take away from this video, that you want to pay attention to during this time, is, how are you communicating, right? Are you communicating from a masculine or from a feminine perspective? And how can you bring balance to that? If you find yourself in that more outward, more like, in you're inserting yourself into the conversation, you're kind of being more, you're not receptive. How can you bring more receptivity into your own, how can you practice more receptivity, right? Listening a little bit more, breathing in, and just listening deeply from your heart, from your, even listening with your body, right? So that you can truly receive the other person and start practicing that. So that's the invitation right now. Also, your relationship with father and father figure or masculine figures in your in your relationships in your family, right? How is that, how are they communicating, how are they showing up in the in the relationship, in the relationships, in the sense of how are they showing up, what are they saying, how, what do you learn about communication from an early age by observing those who represent the masculine role in your family, right? So that's the biggest thing that I want you to take away from this, because again, this is ancestral, this is a call from the ancestors to connect with these aspects of yourself so that you can improve them, so that you can move into healing and breaking those patterns, and recognizing, right, where in your experience are you stuck in the mind a lot, where can you get out of the mind and be more present in your body. So practicing grounded techniques during this time, right? Those are the three things. And then the fourth thing that I don't want to forget is to make sure that you are on, you're really, of course, practice boundaries, but are you practicing these boundaries from a place of just separation and putting up walls, or are you practicing these boundaries from a place of invitation to to um to actually learn how to relate with each other, right? And communicating with each other and bringing in that element of communication, right? Of clear communication is important as well. So those are the four things I want to invite you to think about. I hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope that this was helpful for you. I just felt like this was important for me to share because I was seeing this pattern and I was like, okay, we need to talk about this. By the time, like I said, by the time I got to Sagittarius, I was like, we need to talk about this. So Spirit showed me the way. So thank you, Spirit, for that. I want to let me know in the comments, how did this resonate for you? And if you are on Facebook, you may not be able to comment. So you're more than welcome to come over to YouTube to comment and leave some comment. Does this resonate with you? Does this not resonate with you? Do you feel like, it doesn't matter, I don't really care about this? This doesn't make any sense to me, or maybe it's not making sense, or maybe you want to add something to the conversation. Let's start the conversation in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. And so that's what I have for you today. I want to thank you for being here, for learning with me, and being present. And I want to invite you to again subscribe to this channel if you haven't done so. Please do so, and make sure that you hit that notification button so that you know when I go live next or I post a video next. And make sure you share, like this video, interact with this video. The more you interact with the video, the more you are letting YouTube and Facebook know that you like what you see and that they should be shown to other people. So this will help grow the fam. I want to invite you to go over to my website, thebloominglotushealing.com, and sign up for my email list so that you can be entered in the raffle where I'm giving a free one-on-one session for Mercury Retrograde. So make sure that you go in there, because March 28th is when I announce the winner of the raffle. So make sure that you go there and sign up for my email list. Come back here and post Venus in retrograde clearing, and then you'll be entered in the raffle. So again, you go there, you sign up for my email list, you come back here, and then you post Venus in retrograde clearing, and that will enter you into the raffle. I will be announcing them on March 20th. Okay. So I love you all. Thank you so much for being here. I'm so grateful that we got to learn together today. Today is Mercury, day of learning, Wednesday, day of exploration, day of communication. So make sure that you are practicing communication well today. And I love you all, and I'll see you tomorrow. Namaste.